Activated, your window into how we can change the way in which we aspire for persons with disabilities, how we change our expectations from seeing inability to expecting ability. Activated takes us on a journey of taking lessons from persons with disabilities in how we must do things differently to unleash the contributions persons with disabilities can and must make to building a disability-inclusive Mzansi.
Hello and welcome to Activated with me, your host, Taryn Tomlinson. South Africa's compensation funds promise to provide protection and insurance cover to people acquiring disability because of road accidents and injuries on duty. This cover is supposed to enable those who acquire disability to afford the rehabilitation, support, adaptations and technologies in order to continue their education and economic life. Yet, bureaucratic failures continue to often deny persons with disabilities the means to continue or restart their careers and economic activities. In today's episode, we look at securing economic participation for persons who acquire a disability. Let's get activated. In today's show, we visit Khwezi Mthembu in Secunda and we find out more about the car accident which left him paralyzed. I will be chatting to Fadila Lagadien, a woman dedicated to ensuring that people with disabilities are equitably integrated into the mainstream society in everything she does. Emilie Olifant, writer, founder of the Emilie Olifant Foundation and disability rights activist, shares with us her recovery process through activism and writing after acquiring a disability. Khwezi Mthembu's involvement in a car accident saw him developing a passion for being an entrepreneur and a motivational speaker. After he survived the accident, he went back to his work, and while still trying to find his passion, he fell in love with graphic design and entrepreneurship that saw him opening his printing business. Ons het hom gaan opsoek in Ep10 net buitekant Secunda. Ep10 is a township in the Governor-Mbeki local municipality in Mpumalanga. It was established in the 1970s to serve as a black-only township for the neighboring Secunda, which was founded at the same time.
The biggest thing eyanginika amandla in terms of dealing with the news ukuthi mhlambe angeke ngisakhona ukuhamba futhi, it's a decision I made ukuthi injabulo yami is not dependent ekutheni ngiyakhona ukuhamba or angikhona ukuhamba, but injabulo yami comes down to living my life the best way that I can, because into enkulu empilweni it's being alive. I don't believe you can go through what I went through and come out the other end usaso umuntu ofanayo or usacabanga ngendlela efanayo. So when I went back to Esasol, azange sakhona ukuyosebenza eplantini yabo, because lapho you have to be able-bodied. It's not even indaba yokuthi you are being discriminated against just because now you're on a wheelchair. No, it's not feasible that you can work there. Admin work from 2010 towards the end of 2010 until 2015. So I decided to I have to resign. When I resigned, I didn't even know what I wanted to do. And that was 2015. I just knew Uti. I did not want to be there. So yeah, the first 8 months of the business operating, we actually didn't have any clients, basically. It was just this exciting journey of having a business. And at home, they didn't even know that I have actually made 0 rands. Eventually, I think it was 2.5 years later, the money starts trickling in. Word of mouth is getting out there. Okay, khona le out elokishini yayenza ama-poster, printer, ama-t-shirt, printer ama-mug, nani. The one passion that I discovered as well throughout building the business was the public speaking, because over time I realized I can't go to my grave with the story that I have, I actually have to share it with as many people as I can. Actually, if ufuna ukuba ku-business or umuntu who lives with a disability, you have to find something or passionate ngayo, and ungagcini kuphela ngokuthi ufuna ukuba nama-profit, but also to inspire and improve the lives of others.
Compensation funds can be a great aid to someone who has newly become disabled. Like Khwezi, however, many people got the short end of the stick, myself included. In South Africa, you can apply for a disability grant if you have a physical or mental disability that makes you unfit to work for longer than 6 months, and you get a permanent disability grant if your disability continues for more than a year. Rheumatoid arthritis, the condition I have, however, was not considered a permanent disability when I applied for my grant in my youth. So each 6 months, I had to go through the reapplication process, which was a tedious process that required me to go back and forth between hospital and government offices, despite the obvious fact that I had a mobility impairment. After about 2 years, I simply stopped collecting a grant, which by law was due to me. This is one example of how our government and medical systems have failed us, and I'm sure that so many of you have similar stories of your own. Coming up, disability activist Papi Nkoli, one of our disability rights struggle veterans, an academic, a social and political commentator, and special advisor to the Minister of Social Development, gives us insight into social security systems. Don't go anywhere. Disabled as a young model during the apartheid years, Fadila Lagadien was denied access to the spinal unit at the then HF Verwoerd Hospital, as she was not regarded as white enough. She fought the system and won, being admitted across the street to the so-called coloured section of the hospital, but with access to the spinal unit specialised services. Hello, Fadila, and welcome. I'm so happy to finally have you on our show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Now, I know that your life is quite different now to what it was back then. To what extent did having access to compensation funds change your life?
The compensation fund was good at the time, but it was, I found out later, so much less than white people in the same situation were paid out. Even foreigners that had accidents in our country who were black were paid out more. So it was a very little bit of money that was finished very quickly because of the expenses around disability. And I knew nothing at the time. I found out much later. So what I think government should be doing, and we've told this to them many times over the years, is the disability grant is so little that it doesn't do anything, but it adds up because of the numbers of people that there are. They should rather have a system where they have government procures en masse assistive devices, and then instead of giving a disability grant, hand out decent assistive devices, not the stuff that they give you at the hospital right now. Personal assistance for somebody that's a quadriplegic like myself. You need somebody to help you with activities of daily living, eating, bathing, toileting, getting in and out of bed sort of thing. There is none of that. They do have community workers, community health workers, but that's only for people who have HIV and are bedridden. Nothing for people like you and I who are active.
Yeah, and I mean, there's so many different things that they can do, right? Like joining up with let's say, shopping mall, shopping brands to be able to give massive discounts for persons with disabilities when they come and do their grocery shopping, etc. So, Fadila, before we close off, I'd just like to know, is there any advice that you would like to give our viewers in terms of where they can go to get sound advice about insurance funds and compensation funds?
You know, for me, the first and most important thing about advice is peer support. You and I are both disabled. If we talk to each other, we know what we've done. We've been there, we've done that. We can pass on advice to other people. So peer support is extremely important, and that happens at a community level, not at a government level, not at a health level. We as disabled people must mobilize.
Fadila, thank you so much for coming along and to help us change the narrative for persons with disabilities.
Thank you. You're welcome.
As gestremde aktivis en veteraan het Mthembu Papi Nkoli deur sy loopbaan, sy studies en aktivisme dis sy missie gemaak om ekonomiese en sosiale geregtigheid vir persone met gestremdhede te verseker. Ons het met hom gaan praat in Pretoria. Papi became disabled as a teenager, born in the Free State province, and grew up between Tumahole and Zamdela. Strong family bonds and a deep emphasis on self-knowledge were important components that his family offered him in his early years as a teenager with a disability.
Ka selemo sa 1989 ke ile ka hlaelwa ke kotsi ya otlwa ka selepe hloohong. Ya ba ke a holofala ka hono. Ha isa lo tloa lemong tseno ke ne ke le lemo tsa bo 14 ke a bona. Ya ba go tloa mono ka kena dipetlele jwalo ka okwa. Ka qeta high school ya ka 1993. Ka tla jwale ka kopana le DPSA, Disabled People South Africa. Ke bona e ne le hona le montseno bo 2000, just earlier 2000 or 2001. Ka qala ka ba active mesebetsing ya bona. Hona ho e leng hore ka 2002 2003 hona mono ile ka kgethwa jwalo ka motlatsi wa modulasetulo wa province ya mona Gauteng. Ke ile ka ba involved hape ho bo Physically Disabled People South Africa Association, le emekgatlo ya batho ba disabled jwalo. Taba ya disability ha se ntho taba ya toka ha o tloa tabeng tsa disability. Toka ha mo le tekatekano ha se ntho tla fela hana jwale ka boneng ha o ka sheba mo e tswang teng e tswa ho le hampe pele re ba society sena se o leng sona tsa tsime. Bophelong ba ka nna katleho ke ha ke thusa motho e mong hore a tle ke sa lebela letho yena hore o tla mpasente kapa o tla bua ka nna moketeng wa wa graduation kapa ntho mofuta mo ka hone katle wena ke ai le motho ha o keteka katleho ya motho e mong ke bua ka nna mona na ke keteka katleho ya motho e mong ke katleho ya mannete no bane nna ke khone ho ipona nna hore go tsa ka dikatleho o mesebetsi nna ke etsang ha ke khone hore ke nje ke pepese ke be odimo fela ke khona hore ke nje ya ba bang ke be pele.
Om in 'n motorongeluk betrokke te wees en te leer dat jy die res van jou lewe in 'n rolstoel gaan spandeer, is 'n traumatiese ervaring wat die meeste mense moeilik aanvaar. Maar hierdie voorval het 'n positiewe uitwerking en 'n lewensveranderinge vir haar gehad. Ons besoek Emilie Olifant net hierna. Welcome back. Jaco Kruger's son was diagnosed with autism and ADHD at the age of 6. His son attended a student course, and from personal experience, he knows how financially draining it can be. Being in finance, Jaco has come to realize how little taxpayers know about disability claims. Hence, taxpayers have not utilized this benefit in full, which can be substantial.
My naam is Jaco Kruger. Ek is 'n belastingpraktisyn wat spesialiseer in die belasting vir mense met gestremthede. Dit kan gewoonlik die belastingbetaler self wees wat gestremd is of die belastingbetaler se afhanklike wat gestremd is. Ek het ook 'n seun van 27, ou Jaco, hy sit hier langs my. Ons het 'n baie lank pad saam met ou Jaco gestap vandat hy op 6 jarige oud hom glad nie kon praat nie. Hy het ook tactile dysfunction, soos die Engelsman sê, gehad vir 'n lang tyd en hy is gediagnoseer as autisties en ADHD. Ek ken die finansiële en emosionele implikasies en uitdagings wat 'n mens het om saam met so 'n persoon so pad te stap. En dis die rede hoekom ek hierdie praktyk op die been gebring het, om die mediese en gestremde kostes van mense met gestremdhede by SARS te eis. Hierdie terugbetalings help natuurlik om mense se lewensstandaard te verbeter en ook in die toekoms te onderhou. Voorbeelde hiervan sluit in kostes van alle diensteverskaffers, soos die kostes van terapeute, versorgers en vervoer, en enige ander item wat so 'n persoon met gestremdheid sou benodig om sy daaglikse aktiwiteit te kan voltooi. Die belangrikste van hierdie hele proses van die eis is ook dat jy die ITRDD-vorm baie korrek ingevul moet word en dat ons eis by die belastingbetaler wat die onkostes aangaan en dit ook nie deur die mediese fonds betaal is nie.
Disability claims are something Jaco Kruger is very passionate about. He has hands-on experience in medical and disability claims. According to him, the latest census tells us that as much as 6.1% of our population are people living with disabilities. It's evident that many taxpayers are not familiar with this claim process and have not claimed the total allowable value. En nou deel Emilie Olifant, skrywer en stigter van die Emilie Olifant Stichting, met ons hoe finansiële sekuriteit bygedra het tot haar herstelproses. Emilie had been an active child growing up in Mamelodi and took part in sports and athletic activities while growing up. She learned a lot about her disability, which with the support of her family never became a daunting task. Emilie is also the founder and director of the Emilie Olifant Foundation, which was launched in August 2013, a platform to address socio-economic issues experienced by people with disabilities through disability integration.
My name is Emilie Olifant, originally from Pretoria, Mamelodi. I'm a township girl. I'm 47 and I had my car accident in 2003 when I was approaching my 30th birthday. And life was then starting to begin. Well, life began. And since then, I've been an activist and I got tired of being an activist because I'm tired. I don't want to just talk. And I thought, let me be a disability champion. So through being with me and sharing my space, you ought to know something about disability. Let me not fight. Let me leave it to other activists to do the work because I tire a lot. I don't want to just talk. And so I started dedicating myself to wherever I go, I'm planting a little bit of, this is what we are able to do. Through seeing what I'm able to do, I drive myself, I live by my own, I'm very independent, I travel, I still socialize, I work and so forth. And when people get to know that part of me, without me even telling them a lot about disability, they ought to know it. So that's me in a nutshell. My biggest accomplishment, I'm still getting there, actually. When for the first time in my career life, I was between jobs. And through the encouragement of close friends, I wrote my own book, My Life Climax, which, here it is, which is a journey really of self-love and living a fruitful life with or without a disability. If I had a disability, I would do the same. If I didn't, I would do the same. So this is just, and I thought, let me pack my journey from before my injury, when I had my injury, and now until that time. For people who just acquired a disability, the first thing first, you have to make a decision. Do you want to give up and die a slow death? Or do you want to carry on and embrace the unknown future like most of us have? Life is beautiful. Nothing in your life happens by chance. There is a bigger picture here. I don't think I would have matured as much as I have had I not have the injury. If you are a boss now, a CEO, an ignorant human being on disability, if God forbid you have an accident tomorrow, and then you have to be in a position that I am, the same position that you didn't want to give empowerment to. God forbid that happens to you, because we don't need to wait for incidents to happen to people's lives for them to change. If you want people to accept you for who you are, whether you have a disability, whether you have an injury, whatever circumstances, debilitating situation, you have to meet them halfway. You have to tell them, this is me, and this is what I need.
Her foundation strives to address socio-economic issues, including supplying good quality wheelchairs to qualifying school leavers and identified charity organizations. Within every crisis lies an opportunity to grow if we learn the lessons along the way, adapt and keep moving forward. Thank you, Emilie, for sharing your story with us. En ons sluit af met 'n voorlesing uit 'n gedeelte van haar boek My Life Climax. Die boek neem ons deur haar kinderjare en haar reis na selfontdekking. Sy skryf oor haar mees innerlike emosies en gedagtes, oor haar motorongeluk en besering en hoe sy moes leer om haar gevoel van onafhanklikheid te herwin. Bly veilig tot volgende week, selfde plek, selfde tyd, slegs hier op SABC 2 You Belong. Goodbye.
I think when people are not comfortable about themselves, they tend to make you, someone with a disability, their excuse for excluding you in certain roles. Suddenly they feel that they cannot take you to certain places or groups of people because you may not be well catered for. People have a tendency to assume a lot for and about you. Life would be such a better place for all if we stop assuming in general. And even though the people in my life, be it friends and or family, have shown to be very welcoming of the person I have become and being very comfortable with my disability, I also know though that people will not tell you everything they think about you and your condition in the quest to protect you.